Despite what you've heard about Norma, she's as hardworking and valuable to a team as she is to the bang boos. She offers lots of team buffs, a pretty unique quick assist to chain mechanic, and yes, though she can compete with some of the best stunners in the game, she's also simply valuable because the stunner role is especially limited at times, meaning her release is very welcome, and of course you could otherwise argue that Piper, Pyrois, Monato, or even Nicole, some of the A ranks, are much more accessible for the other roles and pull their weight in said categories. That said, today I'll be going over everything you need to know about Norma, including how to build her, how to play her, what to expect from her partners and teams, and so much more. As a reminder, today's footage will be from the creator beta server, so things are subject to change. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed or learned something from today's video. And without further ado, let's get straight into it. Like many other agents in Zenless, Norma's gameplay revolves around generating her unique resource, Preheated Chamber, and this is primarily through her EX Special and other mechanics throughout her kit. Once she has enough of this though, she can use her held basic attack to trigger a backward quick assist, but as for how this converts to a chain attack, we'll get into that once we break down her kit. What truly sets Norma apart though is her ability to transform a quick assist into a full chain attack, and this of course gives her pretty insane value depending on said agent's chain attack. However, with characters like Pyrois, Evelyn, and even Ishwen, this makes her especially helpful for these lineups. Now let's take a moment to break down Norma's kit and how this will influence your team. Now as for Norma's special mechanic, this is known as Preheated Chamber, as we mentioned earlier. That said, she starts every battle with 60% of it already filled and naturally regenerates 1.5% of this per second, while also gaining more through several of her abilities. Once she reaches the required amount though, she can consume 80% of this to activate her signature mechanic, and this is again triggering a backward quick assist that is immediately converted into a chain attack, allowing her teammates to unleash their chain attacks again outside of the normal stun sequence or without Astra Yao's ultimate. Norma's core passive increases the days dealt by her special attack, EX Special, and ultimate, while also increasing her crit damage by 1.7% for every 1 crit rate above 50%, up to a max of 40% days and 85 crit damage. This of course means that Norma ideally wants to reach 100 crit rate on her stat screen to fully capitalize on her core passive, but she also gains 1.25 attack for every point of sheer force, up to a max of 1200 attack, making her pretty good with rupture teams too. Now as a reminder, and as we touched on earlier, Norma will start combat with 60% of her unique resource already filled, but once she reaches this 80% threshold, she can hold down her basic to consume the 80 and trigger a backward quick assist to the previous agent, allowing them to then launch a chain attack. Her additional ability activates when paired with an attack, rupture, or Ross Califer ESD teammate, and with it, whenever Norma or any of her bangboos or creations hit an enemy, they apply 1 stack of Tech Divide, stacking up to a max of 10 times. Each stack will increase the target stun damage multiplier by 3%, and once the enemy is stunned, their stun duration is extended by 2 seconds, which of course is always crazy. All Tech Divide stacks are removed, however, when the enemy recovers from stun. Now, while in the barrage state, Norma also gains additional attack that scales with her level, and the buff starts at 44 attack and increases by 14 attack per level, reaching up to 870 at max rank. But on top of all this though, all squad members will also deal 20% increased damage, while barrage is also active. Now, Norma's basic attack is a pretty simple 4-hit combo that deals fire damage, but holding down the basic attack button, even before having 80% of her resource, will let Norma continuously fire before throwing the top hat companion onto the field. Once deployed, this will attack independently, store Norma's current preheated chamber, and trigger a backward quick assist, but this won't have the same chain attack conversion that you'd expect once you have 80% of her resource. While active though, top hat companion will continue accumulating and storing preheated chamber on Norma's behalf. However, holding the basic attack button again will recall said companion, returning all of the stored preheated chamber to Norma. The companion will also automatically return once it has at least 80% or more of the unique resource, but on top of this, if Norma swaps off the field while her preheated chamber isn't full, her companion will automatically deploy and continue gathering resources for her. Pretty neat. Norma's EX Special changes depending on the target and whether they're stunned or not. Against enemies that aren't stunned, it fires an armor-piercing warhead, and this deals increased days, but against stunned enemies, it instead fires a high explosive warhead, which makes it deal more damage. Using the skill in general though will grant Norma 16% preheated chamber, activate and barrage for 32 seconds, and deploys 2 turrets onto the field. Holding the EX Special button will continuously consume energy though to extend the attack, and for every 1 point of energy consumed, Norma gains 0.4% preheated chamber and extends her barrage by 0.8 seconds up to a max of 32 seconds. Now to add to this though, whenever any squad member stuns an enemy or Norma consumes her preheated chamber to force a chain attack, her turrets become much more aggressive for 8 seconds, and during this time they repeatedly fire missiles whose behavior changes based on whether the target is stunned, mirroring the armor piercing and high explosive warheads from her EX Special. Now as for for her assist and dodge, Norma's are pretty straightforward, and yes, they can be used to either bring her onto the field safely or allow her to dodge attacks. As for her chain attack, this is also pretty standard as it simply deals fire damage over multiple hits. Lastly though, as for Norma's ultimate, this has her literally call down a nuke onto the field, and of course this deals high fire damage, but it also deals lots of daze too. After the explosion though, Norma also instantly recovers 30% of preheated chamber, and this of course is always nice in general, as this ultimate is also used to regenerate energy. So in total, we're looking at a 30% stun damage multiplier, a 2-second stun duration increase, extra daze when enemies aren't stunned, and a bunch of different free stats through her agent level and sheer force scaling. As for Norma's skill priority, you'll level up her core passive first, and after you'll level her EX special. Following this though, you can of course upgrade her assist as she is a dazer, and alongside this you can also level up her ultimate, which is pretty important to her kit too. Finally though, you can end with her basic attack and her dodge, but honestly these two aren't necessarily the most important. Now in regards to combos for Norma, there's not much honestly to this for Norma specifically, as her general gameplay is more dependent on the team or lineup that she's used in. With this, aside from simply holding down her basic attack once she has enough gauge, the only other thing that you can consider is ideally using her EX special to fill her unique resource as often as possible, but again, when you'd use her held basic attack to activate a chain attack can pretty much vary depending on the fight. In general, however, it's important to remember that chain attacks do provide a decent amount of decibels upon use, and these chain attacks do also apply a decent amount of anomaly even if you aren't playing an anomaly agent, so these are things to consider if you're close to applying an anomaly, getting close to reaching max decibels, and are trying to unload an extra ultimate before overcapping. This of course is especially helpful for an agent like Pyrois with their M2, as this can sometimes allow you to sneak in an extra cast of Pyrois' ultimate before a transition phase or an upcoming stun window. Norma's signature W engine, Chief Sidekick, is by far her best option. Its 24 crit rate makes it much easier to reach the crit rate thresholds that she needs for her core passive, but on top of this, its passive grants 30 impact, lets Norma ignore 15 fire res, and restores 0.4 energy per second while she's off field. Whenever her EX special deals fire damage though, the entire squad also gains 12.5 damage, and this stacks up to 25% total. This of course makes it incredible for both Norma and her teammates. If you don't have Chief Sidekick though, Yesterday Calls is another great option. It shares the same 24 crit rate main stat, making it a great stat stick for meeting Norma's crit rate requirements, but its passive also restores 1.5 energy per second while Norma is off field, allowing her of course to recharge her EX special more frequently. Performance wise though, this still makes it 18% worse than her signature. If neither of these is available though, don't worry, as really anything with a crit rate main stat, especially if it's an S rank, is still solid. Since Norma's core passive rewards reaching high crit rate, prioritizing crit rate over other offensive stats will still provide her pretty good value, and with this, any crit rate main stat engine of the S rank variety is around 22% worse than her signature. For alternatives to this though, Hellfire Gear and Steam Oven are both pretty reliable picks thanks to the impact and energy regen that they have, but otherwise in recent patches, you can now purchase Hellfire Gear from the W Engine exchange shop for the cost of 4 W Engine microcontroller units or 240 W Engine chips. Now, though this is also technically available for 600 residual signals, this is a pretty outdated and not really worth the cost purchase anymore, but meanwhile, of course, Steam Oven is also completely free to craft at the gadget shop, making it one of the best budget-friendly options for Norma, but actually both of these end up being 15% worse than her signature respectively. As for Norma's best drive disc, this happens to be King of the Summit, and this kind of makes sense. Its 2-piece effect increases daze by 6%, while the 4-piece effect grants the entire squad 15 crit damage whenever Norma uses an EX special or chain. Now, in combination with her core passive, as her crit rate will be above 50%, this bonus is doubled to 30 crit damage for 15 seconds and is very clearly her best option. Other 4-piece sets technically also work, including Astro Voice, Shockstar Disco, and Protopunk, especially if you're running a double stunner lineup, but of course this is pretty team dependent. Now, in terms of 2-piece options, Norma is fairly flexible. Woodpecker Electro is one of her best options thanks to its crit rate bonus, allowing her to reach her crit rate thresholds easier, but if you don't find this crit rate necessary, you could also use something like Moonlight Lullaby or Swing Jazz, or you could otherwise use something like Shockstar Disco, Hormone Punk, and Inferno Metal. As a reminder though, having good subsets and rolls is definitely going to be more important than forcing a specific 2-piece set, so keep this in mind while you're farming. As for main stats, use crit rate on slot 4, fire damage bonus or attack percent on slot 5, and energy regen on slot 6. Regarding subsets though, you should definitely prioritize crit rate up to its threshold above all else, followed by crit damage, attack percent, flat attack, and finally flat pen. For endgame players, you should definitely be looking for around 2000 attack while pushing crit rate to roughly 100% and crit damage as high as you can in the 120 to 140 range. But as for newer or returning players with more limited pieces, don't worry if you can't reach these numbers immediately, as you'll be okay with around 1700 attack, 70 crit rate, and 70 crit damage as a solid benchmark that allows Norma to perform her role pretty effectively still. As we move to her teams, a quick reminder that again, I have a whole video dedicated to Norma's recommended teams and even a whole Google spreadsheet with my results for my testing. So before you go further, take a moment to take a look at these documents if you're curious about the performance of said teams, as yes, I have tested a lot of these teams extensively. With this out of the way though, here are the highlights of what to expect with Norma. If you're pairing Norma with a traditional attack DPS, then Norma, Suna, and Ye Guang is currently the strongest performing lineup, reaching 41,700 in deadly assault and 39,100 in Shiyu defense. Next we have Norma, Suna, and Pyrois, another excellent and technically more free-to-play option, scoring 40,100 in deadly assault and 37,700 in Shiyu defense. Lastly though, we had Norma, Suna, and Evelyn remaining a pretty strong alternative to all of what we've just described, achieving a 30,900 in deadly assault and 26,000 in Shiyu defense. Now from this, it's pretty clear that Ye Guang is basically the strongest attack agent that we've ever seen, and even though Pyrois technically does have content suited towards them, including a boss and buff that feel pretty made exclusively for them, the reality is that Ye Guang, with her basically being able to avoid all mechanics in a fight, is just that OP, to be honest. That said, while the gap was still pretty big, Evelyn still had a very respectable performance and was actually pretty far ahead of the other attack agents too, with her being able to take advantage of Norma's chain attacks to great effect actually. That said, despite me initially thinking that Norma would simply be the best for just Pyrois or for maybe attack agents in general, this is not actually where things end. Norma actually shines quite well when paired with Rupture characters thanks to her core passive scaling with Sheer Force, and the strongest team that I've tested by far at the moment is Norma Lucia and Starlight Billy, reaching an impressive 46,100 in deadly assault and 34,100 in Shiyu defense. Now I'd like to add the disclaimer here that of course Billy is coming off of some pretty strong buffs for himself, and to add to this, Thrall was one of the only bosses testable for this rotation, and this meant that Billy had a perfect matchup for him. By comparison, Norma, Lucia, and Yidhari also had a strong score, scoring 41,300 in deadly assault and 31,500 in Shiyu defense, while Norma, Lucia, and Yixuan was close behind both of these with a 40,700 in deadly assault and 33,600 in Shiyu defense. Now, to be clear, while Yixuan did have the lowest score here, her having a 41,000 against a boss that really had nothing to offer to her is pretty notable, as Yixuan was still close to 41,000, and all of this was done without having an element weakness or any real bias or shield towards her. For players without premium supports though, Norma still technically has very strong options here, as something like Norma, Zhao, and Pyrois is the best performing budget team, scoring 31,700 in deadly assault and 30,900 in Shiyu defense, comfortably securing S rank in both of these modes. Norma, Lucy, and Pyrois was another pretty good alternative too, reaching 29,400 in deadly assault and near 30,000 in Shiyu defense, once again well above the S rank thresholds. Lastly though, Norma, Lucia, and Monato remained a pretty good entry level option, scoring 22,200 in deadly assault and 20,100 in Shiyu defense, but while this still earned an S rank in deadly assault, its Shiyu score was still technically below the 25k threshold requirement, making it an A rank score and something to consider. Overall, of course, these teams could have higher scores, especially with additional retries, higher disc subsets, etc., but from my initial testing with these teams, though Lucia was necessary for Rupture teams, and sorry guys, she kind of holds together that entire category, it's pretty clear that the A rank teams are definitely serviceable and workable, at least for the moment, but they are, as they sound, pretty much transitionary or agents that you'll eventually replace once you have access to a new shiny S rank character, though their performances again are still very impressive for what they are. As a final note, many of you are probably still wondering how Norma compares to Dialyn, and yes, I also have details here that you'd be interested in. While Dialyn remains clearly one of the strongest stunners, alongside her ability to grant an extra ultimate, Norma is still pretty good and performs surprisingly close to her in a lot of these teams. Depending on the boss, elemental weakness, and team composition, she can even match or outperform Dialyn in certain situations. What I found to be more important than these situations, however, is Norma's greatest strength being that she isn't really meant to replace Dialyn per se, it's freeing her up. Again, since endgame content requires 3 strong teams, having another top tier stunner lets you run Dialyn on one side and Norma on the other instead of forcing one team to settle for a much weaker option. This flexibility is very valuable and is also something that makes Norma such a strong pull for players looking to consistently clear endgame content. That said, if you take a look at some of the results between Dialyn versus Norma, there is about a rough 2 to maybe 6,000 gap depending on the team, but of course this is again dependent on what the boss has access to, as in certain cases you may actually have a slower stun time with Dialyn, as the boss will be physical resistant, and likely so you'll also find another boss that has fire resistant, and Norma will have that same weakness. Now let's move to Norma's Mindscapes. Norma's first Mindscape extends the duration of her turrets, and to add to this, whenever their missiles hit an enemy, they reduce the target's all attribute resistance. Her second Mindscape enhances Tech Divide by increasing the stun damage multiplier granted by each stack, and she also recovers energy whenever she uses her held basic. Norma's fourth Mindscape grants Decibel to both Norma and the corresponding teammate whenever she consumes Preheated Chamber to trigger a backward quick assist. But lastly, in regards to Norma's sixth Mindscape, whenever any squad member stuns an enemy, added missiles will rain down on the target, dealing fire damage based on Norma's attack and counting as ultimate damage. It also increases the days dealt by armor-piercing Warhead and the damage dealt by high explosive Warhead, making this, like most other support sixth Mindscapes, another way for her to actually deal damage herself. Now, in terms of value though, M1 and M2 for Norma's Mindscapes are pretty good, as they account for a 16 and 11% damage increase respectively. With this, if you're deciding between M1 or pulling for her signature, the signature is definitely pretty good value thanks to the stronger synergy with her kit and the valuable team-wide buffs that it provides. As for Mindscape 6, it offers a pretty modest 3% overall damage increase if you really love Norma, but as usual, if you're looking to buff other characters, say Pyrois, etc., you can definitely stop at M2 if you're looking to invest. Lastly though, let's take a look at Norma's pros and cons, starting with her pros. Now with this, of course, Norma is pretty easy to pick up and play. She uses old sets that you've likely already farmed for, like King of the Summit. She doesn't really rely on her signature W engine much, especially if you have access to something like Dialyn's, and on that note, she also frees up Dialyn to be used on other very powerful teams. As a final note, she also can be an upgrade or side grade to Dialyn depending on content, which by itself is also pretty impressive. But as we move to cons, genuinely, aside from her basically not working well with Anomaly, which again feels intended, and the fact that she can feel less valuable if you already have Dialyn and only need one stunner at the time, or the most obvious, which is that you're likely saving for Remiel, there really aren't that many downsides to picking up Norma, though I understand this definitely doesn't necessarily feel like a must-have character despite how good she is. Now let's talk about Norma's pull value. With Remiel on the way and her seemingly being designed for Anomaly teams rather than Norma, it's understandable to question whether Norma is actually still worth pulling for, especially if you're excited for the Void Hunter rather than Norma. However, there's actually a lot to consider here. First, Norma is one of the better stun options that we currently have access to, and she also happens to be amazing with a variety of teams, not just attack or rupture, but actually with both. And though I originally listed her first as being a suitable replacement for Dialyn, she's also just one of the best stunners in the game currently, raising the performances of many DPS, including the likes of Soldier 11 and Evelyn 2. To add to this, she's also one of the best stun options for Pyrois, a new free and top tier DPS, as the additional chain attacks do really add lots of decibels to their already ultimate spam heavy kit. But yes, the obvious still stands. If you're someone who already has Dialyn, is comfortable playing Lycon for Yidhari, already have a strong set of teams that cover multiple playstyles like the Angels of Delusion Anomaly team, or plain and simple, if you'd like to skip Norma and save for a future 3.0 agent, I get it. These are completely valid reasons to pass on Norma for now, though it really has to be stated, her performance is very good right now. That's it for everything you need to know about Norma though. Personally, I will be pulling for her, and honestly from my testing and performance, and honestly even her gameplay feel, I'm a big fan. As a reminder though, I've recently opened a Patreon, and with it, if you'd like to see more behind the scenes details about guides, if you'd like some of your questions answered, or if you'd simply like to support me in what I do, thank you so much, and the link will be in the description. But thanks again for watching guys, I wish you all great luck on your pulls, stay safe, stay healthy, good night.